Welcome to another episode of Coaches on Zoom Drinking Coffee. I am pleased to be drinking coffee with my new friend, Danielle Lindblom, now coming to us from the beautiful Missoula, Montana. Danielle, it's great to connect with you this morning, and we're giggling because we were making up whether or not we were going to turn the record on or not, and felt like the right thing to do.
I'm super excited. Thanks for going with the flow. I have tea, and it's the perfect temperature.
That's great. I have coffee, but funny story is 3 days ago, my wife had me do one of her tarot card readings.
Ooh.
And it suggested that I needed to remove stimulants from my life. And so I made this big, bold commitment to not drink coffee and not drink wine for the whole month and see what happened. I made it through 2 days. I'm going to stick with the no alcohol, and I've committed to just one morning cup of coffee just to kind of get me into the day. So
all things in moderation, right?
All things in moderation. I wasn't too happy with who I was becoming on a no caffeine approach. So, oh well, we're not perfect.
Yeah.
So we connected a few weeks back as part of the Rich Litvin intensive program. We connected in a very distant virtual way, unfortunately. But I got a chance to see you get thrown onto the hot seat with Rich. And, I think as happens in these group programs, one person's story will resonate with a lot of people's stories. And yours had I think a pretty profound impact on a lot of people. To hear you very vulnerably talk about what you're going through and transitioning from corporate to whatever might come next. And it's been cool because I've kind of followed your trajectory even since that session with Rich. And as we were talking just before we recorded, it hasn't been a straight line to the moon. So maybe share with me and those listening, like, if you want to share the backstory before, he showed up at the intensive, it might be good context for people, but I'm fascinated in how you've dealt with what Rich asked you and what you processed that day and how it's changed since.
Yeah, a whirlwind. And it's still fascinating to me that people like yourself reached out or connected with me being coached by Rich, because I went back and I watched it, right? Because in the moment, all you can think about is in the moment. I went back and I watched it, and to me, I was like, well, that doesn't seem all that profound. Like, that doesn't seem earth-shattering, or like, people would connect with that. So it's been fascinating for me that like that really reached out and touched some people. And I've certainly had that experience watching other people be coached by Rich. One story is many story. Background, I had a good solid career in corporate America, specifically manufacturing. And I was what's known as a change agent. So that comes with many different job titles: lean manufacturing specialist, continuous improvement specialist, lean leader, things like that. But I was on a pretty rapid path to go into leadership. I looked upwards, and it was a high-level management position or a 100% travel consultant position. And both of those seemed impossible, like too much responsibility, way too much stress, because my job environment and my job responsibilities were triggering severe anxiety. I ended up in a company with pretty atrocious culture. Plus my job responsibilities became anxiety triggers. I was having panic attacks at work. And I was actually working with a coach on a transition plan to go into my then side business. I was a dog behavior consultant. So I've been studying behavior science for many years, using it in kind of the dog training realm. And actually, I worked with humans to change their behavior in order to influence their dog's behavior.
Right.
So I have all the skills to train dogs, but I focused more on the people side. And then I got laid off, which was brilliant. I mean, I was barely hanging on. So that was the perfect thing at the perfect moment. Transitioned very smoothly into my small business. Did that really well for a couple of years. Transitioned into life coaching. And now that's what I'm focusing on building and growing, and really kind of stepping into that and owning that. And it's been absolutely incredible. I don't know what more I can say on that, but what I got coached by Rich on, at the time, it seemed so small and so silly. Like, I'm having difficulty reaching out and connecting with people. Like, I feel nervous to reach out and connect with people, because I was coming at it from entirely the wrong way. So since I was switching businesses, I decided in my brain that I needed to do things completely differently. What I had done as a behavior consultant is what we call the prosperous coach approach, which Rich Litvin teaches. And you connect through service, right? I'm here to add value however I can. There's no agenda. I'm helping and making invitations to continue working together. It feels wholesome. It feels ethical. It really aligns with who I am as a person. But I decided that since I'm switching gears, like, I need to do everything differently. So I had been hopping from like process to process, method to method, all of these things on how to create clients and how to grow your business and how to make money. And I was like, Rich, I'm having difficulty connecting with people.
Yeah.
Because I'm connecting from this place of wanting to make money and not wanting to serve. So of course it's slimy and it doesn't feel right. It didn't feel right for me. It didn't feel right for the people I was connecting with. So I got some lovely hot seat coaching. And since then, it hasn't just been like, oh, we flipped a switch and now she can do it correctly. It's been a little bit of give up some of this stuff, learn how to slow down, especially with this move, learn how to reconnect with fun and easy. And since kind of activating that mindset of how can I make this fun and easy, it truly has been fun and easy. I started a video interview series just for fun. It's called Unconventional. It's about how to move forward anyway. And I'm interviewing amazing human beings that I met at the intensive. I'm joining Facebook groups for fun. I'm connecting with people for fun. I'm doing things like this for fun. And it's just furthering my ability to be me, to just be me, to be able to be authentic, to be able to show up this morning. Like you said, I was super giggly and we got on the call and I was like, good morning.
Yes, you do. You have a beautiful singing voice that I hadn't heard before.
Former soprano.
Oh, there you go.
So that's kind of a long-winded answer, but that's what I'm up to right now.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. It's interesting. You know, I remember a comment that was made during the intensive around who our biggest competitors are as coaches. And I don't know if you remember that comment, but it was basically people's willingness to change.
Yeah.
And what strikes me is, you know, your work in behavioral science with dogs. You know, I've had a dog. I've taken care of my sister's dog and friends' dogs from time to time. And pets have an amazing ability to make you feel inadequate in your inability to control them, right? Which creates an opening, you know, for somebody that can help to help me feel less inadequate in how to control the behavior of this animal. And so I guess the question, I guess maybe that's the struggle now is, you know, your ability now to work with humans, they need to feel that that, I suppose, gap between how they feel now and how they'd like to feel in order to have an opening to work with a coach. So how are you exploring that?
I love that analogy. And I'm going to tweak it slightly because I want to let go of the word control.
Yeah.
Let's just forget about controlling animals. It's not really 100% possible, nor is it fun. But what I did as a behavior consultant is I bridged the gap. You don't know what you don't know. And the majority of people were, well, all human beings were not born with the knowledge of how another species communicates, right? We don't know that. We have to learn that. And so that's what I would do in my role as a behavior consultant, is I would help my clients to understand, what is your dog communicating? Why is it doing the things it's doing? Right? Because not understanding why makes us feel out of control, makes us feel frustrated. A lot of the times my clients just really wanted to help their dog, right? They could see that it was stressed and it was uncomfortable and, you know, having these behavioral reactions, and they wanted to do something to help. So by bridging that gap and helping them to understand, what is it your dog is trying to communicate? Why is it doing what it's doing, which is just pure behavior science, which does apply to people too, right? Seeking pleasure, avoiding pain. By them understanding that language, they then felt in control. And by feeling in control, they could relax and be a part of the experience and be open to working with their dog instead of working against their dog. So it's that concept of bridging the gap that I'm really fascinated by. And I'm glad you brought that up. You don't know what you don't know. And a lot of my work with my clients has been these really vague concepts of empowerment and authenticity. And I was sitting in my brain struggling, like, well, how do you market empowerment and authenticity? Like, that's so vague. It sounds corny. No one's looking for empowerment or authenticity. And so my job is to bridge the gap. How does that show up in people's lives? Right? How do they recognize not feeling empowered, not feeling confident, not having clarity, and being out of integrity with themselves? How does that show up in their life in a way that they recognize it? Because I see it as a trained coach as they're disconnected with authenticity. They don't feel empowered. So that's been really fun for me to play with. You know, that might show up as, I have some severe stress and anxiety in my life, and I don't know how to turn it off. I'm struggling to make a decision and to move forward because I'm swirling in my brain with all of these distractions and all of these external influences, right? Because when we feel confused or we want to solve a problem, we go to seek information. Well, then we get information overload from all these different conflicting sources, and now we're even more confused.
Yeah.
So what I do is I help people to strip all of that away, to go very deep within themselves and reconnect with who the heck they are and what their authentic self, which sounds corny, but it's 100% true, what their authentic self is trying to tell them. And when you get clear about that, that's your compass, that's your heading. You don't need anything else, because the only one that knows what you want is you. So I love that. Thank you. Like, that is super fun for me to play with.
Yeah, well, you know, it's interesting because I'm seeing it, being here with you today, seeing you on camera as compared to seeing you what's almost a month ago now.
Like on a different camera?
Yeah, but I'm seeing how that gap has closed for you. The clarity of how you're thinking about this gift that you have to bring to the world. It's like palpable to feel it come, to hear you say it now. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because we actually operate in a very similar space where I'm working mainly with university students in my coaching, and so I get to work with them for a whole year before they're set out into the big bad world. And my number one objective is to make sure they understand they have a choice in what they choose to do when they graduate. No matter how many years they've invested in school, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars, every day they can show up and they can go, if they've been carrying those dreams or they've been carrying that thing they want to do in the world, they have a choice to take everything they've learned and everything they've done and apply it to whatever they want, no matter what the system or their parents or society is telling them otherwise. And to see the ones that are willing to do that work and to reframe the way they're looking at their careers and then go and do it, it's one of the most empowering things to see. And kind of given everything that's going on around us right now, it seems like one of the most important things we can do is to help people get into the right space of energy and applying their skills and their abilities and their dreams and passion to the things they really, really deeply care about. I think we could, if we could figure out a way to get most of the population on that path, things would be in a much different place than they are right now.
What kind of came up for me as you were saying that is you don't have to have it all figured out yet either. That if you don't know, it's okay to just continue on the current path until you do know.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and that will almost certainly change anyway. Mm-hmm. So this, like, I hate the concept of life purpose because it's constantly evolving because you're constantly evolving. I've changed career paths so many times, it makes my parents dizzy.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you doing now? Life coaching? I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what that is, but you'll do fine, I'm sure. But when I graduated college, I didn't know really what I had a mechanical engineering degree.
Wow.
And I was somewhat restless. I wanted to go do, and the thought of going into an entry-level position just wasn't appealing to me. So I got recruited for and hired for a leadership program, a rotational program, mm-hmm. where I just signed my life away for 2 years to the company and said, okay, so you're going to move me around the country 3 times, 8-month rotations. I won't know where I'm going. I'm pretty sure I'll know the job function, but I won't know, the business unit and other stuff. I said, great. That's awesome. Now that's less decisions on my plate. Like, I get to be exposed to a lot of different things. I get to experience a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. And something that I've kind of learned for myself is I'm a big fan of learning by doing. But I know that once I've had enough experiences, I'll be crystal clear on what I want to do. Mm. It's like, if I don't know what I want to do, it's not super helpful to think more about it or to analyze it. It's better for me to just go experiment, to go try stuff, to go do. Because I figure out really quickly by actually doing it, oh, I like this, I don't like this. Mm.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think it's one of the shortcomings of a lot of the education system right now is that there isn't more of that even integrated into the learning experience of, co-op programs and apprenticeships and internships. Because this idea you're going to decide coming out of high school, a path for 4 years is pretty crazy given the work, given where it's you're at. Yeah. And with how much of an investment it requires of a lot of young people, that pressure, I can understand why they come out of it thinking that they have to sort of like see this through because they've put so much into it. So I totally appreciate your comment. And I actually love the fact that a lot of businesses are introducing these rotational approaches now because it helps them find the right fit as well for the employees they're bringing in. And if you find an employee and get them in the right role, they're going to be that much more productive on their own. So that's cool.
Cheers to you and what you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Likewise. Yeah, well, I mean, it feels like we're coming from a very similar intent. If our audiences might be slightly different.
Yeah.
So we were asked the question of what's the big impossible dream? Not to put you on another hot seat, but I'm curious because I feel this energy and this certainty now in you, which is just beautiful to see. And
It feels good, because if you talked to me 3 days ago, it was a different story.
Yeah, yeah,
We all go ups
I've
and
been,
downs.
yeah, I've been through that too. I mean, I've had people question, you know, are you playing big enough? You know, are you playing big enough working with university students? You know, and I found that an interesting comment, because it was like, well, they're human beings, just the same as a CEO or
Yeah.
somebody else's, right? Am I
And for a
playing big
lot of
enough?
people, let me just say, for a lot of people, that demographic would be terrifying.
Yeah, yeah. So I'd love to hear the big version, and I'm happy to share a little bit about what I'm thinking as well. But so where does your mind go in terms of what's that next big level thing for you?
So I'll be honest, when we got to that portion of the intensive and we're talking about impossible goals, that wasn't what I needed right then.
Hmm.
There's so many things that get introduced in that intensive. You kind of gotta grab onto what you need at the moment and know that the rest will be there when you're ready for it.
Hmm.
So that part didn't really reach out and grab me, but I will say, you know, because I'm very focused in kind of the here and now. I want to get to a place of really nice stability in my business, where things are humming along, and that will allow me to kind of look forward.
Hmm.
But what I will say is, I think the trend that I'm on, and if I had to name an impossible goal, it's really spreading awareness about mental health.
Hmm.
And that even, and sometimes especially, the people that are most driven and look like they're the most put together and the most accomplished, there's a balance to that, that we sometimes often experience some of the most significant lows and the most significant mental health challenges. And without me trying to, that's naturally coming out in these interviews that I'm doing for Unconventional. Because the point was to motivate people to move forward, right? Even if they're terrified, even if the external factors around them are saying like, oh, that's not a good idea, or maybe you should wait, you know, inspiring people to move forward anyway. Organically, all of these conversations about mental health are coming up in those interviews. That's something that I've been supporting for a while, and I'm getting more vocal about it.
Hmm.
I'm starting to share more of my story. Last year, 2019, was incredibly dark for me. I went through what I would say the most challenging period in my life. And that is, I'm starting to share that story now. And I'm bringing more awareness to mental health challenges. I want to make the taboo things more openly discussed. That's kind of my bigger purpose. And I want to support those who are going through those challenges.
Hmm.
At the very minimum, to say you're not alone. And I mean that in two ways. Like, I'm really passionate about being specific about that. There's the typical, you're not alone, other people have experienced what you're experiencing. But what's more important for me in that message of you are not alone, I actually wrote a blog post that's just like this open letter, called You Are Not Alone. It's, you're not alone in this moment in what you're going through.
Hmm.
That there are people that are supporting you, even if you can't see it. That you don't have to figure everything out on your own. And it may feel that way.
Hmm.
That this is your burden, this is what you've got to work through, this is what you have to figure out, that you can't tell anybody. And I want people that are in that dark place to know that they're not alone, that there is support. And they don't have to figure it all out for themselves.
Hmm. That's
That's
beautiful.
my bigger mission.
Yeah. Well, that lands for me. I mean, it's interesting when you have that kind of community around you. I mentioned I had a conversation earlier the week where somebody, I'm not sure what their intention was, but they made this comment that really bothered me. And it kind of sent me on sort of a sideways track for a couple of days. And, you know, I've got a small community of coaches that I've connected with over the last couple of years. And somehow they sensed a shift in energy, right? And they live, you know, on the other side of the continent, and went out of their way to reach out just to to see what was up, and you know, maybe my posts had, you know, maybe my commentary online had changed or something. They sensed there was something up, and people just, and they reached out to support and connect and to find a way to be there, or to let me know that they were there. And so that message of you're not alone doesn't have to be an in your face thing. It can be, we're here, right? Don't forget that you're surrounded. And that's so powerful. And I mean, I can't imagine a time more important than what we're going through right now. You know, I've got a group of students who come from all kinds of different nationalities, who have all kinds of different colored skin, who've been cooped up in their homes or apartments for 3 months, and now are looking at what's going on in the US, but also in our own country. And they're really feeling alone, you know? So, you know, it's interesting because I've actually created just some off the cuff meetups and group sessions to bring them all together, just to let them talk and express what they're feeling. And so it's a plenty big enough mission, it sounds like to me, Danielle.
Yeah, and I'd say there's even a level of specificity to it, that I'm kind of driving this message towards the overachievers.
Yeah.
The people that are incredibly driven, they're the ones that mask it the best. They're the ones that project everything is okay the best.
Mm.
And they're the ones that are convinced that they have to figure it out for themselves, because that's how they've operated their entire life. The people that are just relentlessly driven, that think that they have to be strong, and that's their persona, that, well, I have to figure this out on my own because that's how I've done everything else. Mm-hmm. It's okay to show what you're going through, and it actually humanizes you. And by putting that out there, the whole concept of vulnerability is that it makes you open to receive. Mm. And that's been a really difficult lesson for myself to learn, but such a beautiful one that I want to share with other people.
Yeah. Yeah, I know those people you speak of.
I'm sure you do. I don't think they don't sign up for 21-day intensives, do they?
Yes, they do. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there are also people, I mean, it's interesting because, you know, I come from a high performance sport coaching background where we were all those people. You know, that was the uniform we put on every day, whether it was true to who we were or not. That was the uniform. And it's interesting how life goes, is that I now am actually getting to work with former Olympians who are retiring and now trying to go through school to figure out what comes next. And they are the most fragile.
Yeah.
You know, because they've had to carry this persona all their young lives, and they've been recognized for that persona by the outside world their whole lives. And now they're feeling like imposters in this new world of, you know, showing up as a student and as a business person or whatever. So I feel you. I'm definitely part of that population of trying, and you know, it's a big part of why I did actually sign up for the program. Is, you know, I've had this gap of about 8 years from leaving, being part of a community that supported each other by all of us being this sort of strong, you know, ego voice of a high performance coach. And it was a community. You all felt safe being that way because you fit in by being that way. And I got sick of that person. Quite literally, I got sick, and figuratively, I got very sick of him. So, but then you got to find a new group to fit in with. And it's hard to do that until you find a group that actually where you can just show up. And whatever Rich's community, whatever drives people to be part of it, it was striking to me to meet people that were so welcoming. Mm-hmm. And you know, I was in a small group with some other coaches have been doing this for a long time, but we also had some like first year, we had a 25-year-old, and like we were, by a couple weeks into the program, we were as tight a group of human beings who had never met each other before as I could have imagined. So, and now, I'm sure you feel this with the group you were part of. There's a sense that you do belong to something now.
Mm.
Like there's a group there that I know, they're on my WhatsApp. They're a text message away.
Yeah.
If I need anything. And sometimes they sense what I need before I know I need it.
I love that. Everything you just said.
Mm. Well, that's what you're bringing to the world. So it's that's why we're here.
Yeah. I'm glad that this conversation was able to happen, and I'm kind of trusting that it'll find the person that needs to hear it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. Because I think we're on similar paths. We're dealing with people to help them, understand where that gap is in their own lives, and feel safe to work towards closing it. And if I'm starting with them a little younger in their path, I hope I don't put you out of business, but something tells me there'll be plenty of people that need help, because there's enough young people out there that there's a lot of forces on them that lead them into a direction that at some point in their lives they go, wait a second, this doesn't feel like me anymore, as it did for you and I, it sounds like. So it's powerful work.
I love what I do.
I can tell it comes through the camera with great energy. Yeah. So I'm glad we've had this conversation today, Danielle. We will share it with the universe, and it will land with those that need it. And we'll make sure that people can reach you, and we'll put all of that contact information. Although I think once they see you and hear you and feel you, they're going to find their way to you. And I know that we're going to keep these conversations going as well, because we're very connected.
Absolutely. My next step was going to be to invite you to do an unconventional interview.
I was hoping you were going to do that, so I'm there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's such a similar feeling to what you're doing, where it's just for fun, and I get so much benefit as well as the people I'm interviewing.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you make that available to the bigger world, it's incredible that the conversation we have might be exactly what somebody else needed to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. And we will also have you come down to Costa Rica and join us, and bring some of your clients down and help them have a transformational experience.
Oh, I'm down for that. I am so excited about what you're doing and what you want to create with that. And can I just say bravo for like coming hot out of the gate with that concept. It was like, I have not had time enough to think this through, but I'm just going to put it out there. And it was perfect. Like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, it's funny. It had been, the concept of Costa Rica had always been sort of present, but it was more like, well, it would be a nice place to live, to retire there. And then it just struck me that it was a big part of the intensive was all of a sudden I realized, wow, there's a lot of people here I would love to hang out with in Costa Rica. And they probably hang out with really cool people that are their clients. And how fun would it be to hang out with a whole bunch of people like that? And it's also the right place on the planet that has the right kind of energy for the kinds of people that we are and that we hang out with. So I'm glad it came as clearly as it did for me. And then I just decided to embrace it and show up here every day. Yeah.
It just needed somebody to be the spark.
Yeah.
Right? It's bigger than you, but as soon as you put it out there, it was able to grow.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be responsible for what it becomes. You just had to be the spark that ignited it.
Yeah. I'm excited.
I'm excited too.
All right, Danielle, I will set you off to inspire some people in the world today, and keep singing. Beautiful voice and beautiful person. And it's great to connect with you today.
Absolutely. Thank you for the invitation.
Take care.
All right. Bye.